Well, good morning. Good morning. It's your girl Tanisha today. Miss Inspiration. Good morning, Paula. Happy Wednesday. I don't like that. It's so small. So I'm using StreamYard and they added, you see like in the lower right hand corner where the comments come up automatically. But I want to display them so you're gonna see them both times on the stage. But yeah, so good morning. Today, excuse me. Ooh, hope you're having a great morning. We had a little late start. Some puppy issues. I'm still adjusting to this. But I must say, I love him so much. Good morning. Oh, thank you, Renee. Oh, this is one of my sets from Shein. It's actually a short set. You probably seen me in it. But thank you. So this morning, I want to talk about our environment, right? Whether we're talking about oh, excuse me, my hand. Oh, my hand just started itching. Um, Bring in some money, Lord. Thank you, Renee. So today I wanted to talk about environments, right? And I think this is the conversation I have had so many times with people over the years that you have to pay attention. Thank you. We're gonna claim this for Renee. We're gonna claim this. Uh, um, Talking about how your environment has impact and it influences your actions, right? And I think a lot of people often dismiss this because they're used to their environment, so it's all that they know. So for them it's like, it's nothing, like it's just who I am, it's just a part of me. And as you are starting to do your own healing, you start paying attention to these things. And so I want anyone that is on a healing journey, whether you're just starting, you've been on it for a couple of years, I want you to pay attention to what your environment is doing for you and to you, because it is having a major influence, no matter what people are telling you. So the first thing I want to talk about is that your environment, you end up absorbing what you are surrounded by. You absorb what you are surrounded by. So if you are around a bunch of positive influences, good energy, you're going to absorb that, right? And eventually, I know people that will fight. They will fight that. They don't want that. They don't want the positivity. They don't want that good energy, and they will fight it. And I think about people at old jobs, right? So I've had some old coworkers that I come in, I'm this positive light, and they're just like, and they're shying away from it because it's like, I don't want to be attached to that. But then next thing you know, they start to soften up. They might start speaking more, and you start realizing like, wow, energy really is real, right? Energy can transfer, and it can be transferred in a positive way. And I think so. I don't know where people got this notion that it's only negative energy that we can feel and that is real. No, we can feel positive energy. I have been around some people whose spirit is just awesome and is on fire for the Lord, and they're just doing great things, and you feel that when you're close to them, whether you're going to a conference, you meeting them up one-on-one for coffee, or even if you're watching their content, you can feel that. So you want to start in paying attention what you are absorbing, what you are consuming, and what you are taking in, because it's like a sponge, right? And I want us to pay attention. So whether it's something that you're really, you're, because some people will say, well, I don't go anywhere. Well, my mouth is dry, hold on. Some people would say, well, I'm not going anywhere, so I'm not really absorbing anything. But what are you watching on TV? What are you listening to? What's on your YouTube playlist? What's on your social media feeds if you are a social media person? Like, all of those things are going to have an impact on you, right? And where you're going. That is the power of the environment. And so I want you to be very mindful of that. And I want you to ask yourself, like, what are you constantly listening to? Right? Because again, our mind is a sponge. And that sponge, if it's consuming and it's only being influenced by anything that's negative, your mind is going to absorb that. And that is what you're going to start to put out yourself. And that's what I want us to be very careful about. Now, the second thing is that your environment can either affirm or it can attack your identity. I want someone to write that in the chat for me. Your environment can affirm or it can attack your identity. And you're probably like, Tanisha, what does that even mean, right? So if you are in an environment that's not supportive, right, that is not going to speak life into you, that is not going to be aligned with your goals and your values and your growth, then that's not affirming. That's an attack. And I personally have been in a situation like that on a job. And so many, when I worked there for about 8 months. And I swear from like day two, I started to quickly identify this environment is not speaking life into me. It is not speaking, it is not speaking, it's not aligning with my goals. It wasn't aligning with my values. They portrayed, thank you, Paula, they portrayed that they were aligned with my values, right, in the interview process, but they really were not the more that I got into and working with the organization. And what did that end up doing for me? Well, that ended up causing me to start having anxious. Like, I'm not an anxious person. I never claimed anxiety, but I felt what anxiety felt like when I worked there. When you are sitting in the parking lot of your job and you're contemplating every possible scenario that could happen. And you're just like, this is so unhealthy, right? This is toxic. And I remember after leaving that organization, a friend of mine, we had a like mind mastermind. And it was a lot of people who were in that season where they were frustrated with their jobs, and they was just like, it's toxic, I can't do this. And they're waiting and they're trying to figure out what is going to be their next steps. And so it made, we all had this common denominator of experiencing workplace abuse, toxic, and it caused many amazing individuals to have what we now call, because I think back then that term wasn't used, but like imposter syndrome. So people were out here questioning themselves, their talents, their abilities, their abilities to do their job and to show up and maximize at the highest level. They had all of this all because they were in the wrong environment. But when you get into the right environment, because we don't talk enough about that. We can talk all day about the wrong environment, but when you are in the right environment, I'm telling you, you are going to receive praise. Even if you're not used to it, you're going to receive recognition. Even if you're not used to it, they're going to want to highlight your gifts and want to see them actually thrive, right? So they're affirming this. They're saying, you know what, you're great at this, and we don't see you doing enough of it. So you know what, we're going to make adjustments and we're going to modify it so that you can start to use this gift a little bit more. That's what people are looking for. People are looking for places that they can grow, that when, and not just their bank account, because the reality is many people can go out here and get a job and work that job for years. And the only thing that has progressed is their pay, right? They can start here and they will give them raises. They get bonuses. They get all this, but they're not changing. They're not growing. Nothing is shifting within them. And if you're okay with that, that's fine. But for a lot of people, we're not okay with that. We want to see growth, right? Unless you have a strategic plan, that is the reason why you're like, look, I really don't care about all of this because I'm also working on this. Like, I'm kind of in that season where I'm not like fixated, like, oh, I want to become a director, I want to become the president. I'm not fixated on that because I'm working on what God is calling me to do too. I'm doing both at the same time. But the good part is I'm in a healthy space where I can thrive. My finances, they're thriving. My gifts are being cultivated. I'm learning new things. I'm working around smart people who are also teaching me, and we're just collaborating with one another, and it's a healthy place. That's an environment people want to be in. That's what I encourage people, because the worst thing to do is to work somewhere, whether you're even remote. Because look, the reality is you can work a remote job and it can still be crazy miserable. Okay, where you got people sending you teams and what's the other one, Google messages all day long, tapping in, I didn't see you online for 2 minutes, is everything okay over there? Like, it's not all glitter and gold. Sometimes it's really unhealthy, so you have to figure out and start paying attention if this is a good fit for me. And this is why I always encourage individuals, especially when it comes to the work realm, to make sure that when you're going out here interviewing, that you're paying attention. How does your body feel? How does it respond to this environment? Because that is going to give you a lot of answers if this is a good space or not. And look, I haven't taken my own words for it, and like I said, I experienced it. That was the first example, and then I'm in a healthier experience now. So this can go for so many different ways. Moving to a new location, right? I can talk about that in the same aspect. In New York, I felt attacked. My spirit was not in a good space. I was literally fighting for my life to be Miss Inspiration, to be this positive force. And the only way that I found that it was possible, if I isolated myself, and that's not healthy, right? It's so not healthy. Paula said I was remote before. It was trendy and just as stuck. Excuse me. It felt worse. Orpheus crabs in the barrels. Yes, yes, yes. They are everywhere, right? So remote, in person. Look, you just gotta find the right place. Like I tell people all the time, you gotta find the right. Actually, someone said that to me yesterday. Oh, I love on remote work because I'm jealous of y'all. Y'all all got it easy. And I said, everyone doesn't have it easy. Like, everyone does not have it. Like, do not ever assume, right? And I love that you said that, before it became trendy. Look, I've been trying to get into remote world since 2012. No, 2011. That was the first time I ever taught an online class. And I was like, oh, I can do this all the time. Even if it was what we call them synchronous courses. So we have to meet at a certain time every day. I still didn't care. I was right there in my house on my computer teaching my class, and it was a great experience. But yeah, Paula, they're everywhere, in person, and then they also on and remote. So the third thing that I want you to think about, like I said, is just tying into location, right? So for me, I had to give myself permission to create the environment that I wanted. And so this goes into your physical space. It can mean decorating, it can mean cleaning your space, clearing out your space. This last week, I've been speaking to, like, I spoke to 5 people, and they're all in that. I'm in the closets, I'm tearing things out, I'm donating to different charities so they can come pick it up. I'm dropping it to Goodwill. They're creating their space because it's like it's time to clear it out. And then some people are also in the space of decorating, right? I'm in that space where I'm like, all right, I need to add some color. I have a ton of pictures in here that I have not put up. I done been to IKEA when we did Tulsa. Tulsa is trying to get an IKEA, and so they did like a special Tulsa visits IKEA trip down to Texas last year. It was super cute. It was fun, and we I got like all these pictures. Still have not put none of this stuff up. And I mean, unfortunately, I was like in this space of like, maybe if I meet someone. No, we're not doing that this year. I'm gonna call my homegirl, she's very handy, and we're gonna get this stuff because it's about creating that space, right? I'm giving myself permission to, one, feel like I'm home, right? I do feel a lot more relaxed here. I do feel like I can be here for a couple of more years. And so I'm enjoying it, and I don't want to disturb that peace. But then I also want you to think about, clearing your space so that you can receive, the good, and you can have that flowing through your entire home. We also have to think about setting boundaries, right? And so many times people are like, well, what does that have to do with creating my atmosphere or creating? When you set boundaries, That means that you're putting up like a list of rules, or guiding norms. Okay, and so you're basically saying these are my norms, these are my boundaries, so that any person who's coming into my physical space, cannot disturb it. Okay. Paula says, you know what, Paula, you know what? Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Because I've been really contemplating. I mean, I've been talking to God. Like I spoke to God yesterday, and I was like, look, I need someone says, so there's someone out here in Tulsa. Every time I see this person, they talk about their house manager. And I'm like, yo, you got a house manager? Like, what does that entail? So the house manager handles the house cleaning. So they organize the house cleaning, the groceries being done, and the chef. And I was just like, that's amazing. Like, I will like, God would love to have that. And I do. I have to get into a space, Paula, and everyone else, of trust. Right. I don't trust people too well. It's been very That's like one of the biggest challenges out here, because one, they're like, people are willing to help you. And so because I have that New York, like we still have that, we don't trust people too well. So like, even our super is not just coming into our house that quickly, that easy. So to be here, especially alone, um it does make it a little bit, like, can I trust them to do it the right way? Because sometimes I know some places, and Paula, you let me know, like, does your house cleaner allow you to be in the house, or do you have to leave? So, but again, that's also a part of, because if this is not your strong suit, like I know it's not my strong suit. So I know what I need to invest and like I said, Paula's mentioning that is confirmation, because I was just talking about this yesterday with God, like literally just yesterday. So, but yeah, so when you set those boundaries, you start allowing, like, everyone can't come into my house. Even simple things like take off your shoes, immediately got to go into the bathroom, wash your hands. Like, you can do all of that because it's your space. Even in your car, even in your workspace, if you have a cubicle at work, you have the ability to set certain standards so that you protect your peace. This is your responsibility, right? And when you start incorporating new people into your life, you have the responsibility to enforce those things, right? Because that's the power of your environment. Uh, so Paula says she stays or she leaves. She said it took me so much to get used to strangers in my house. Girl, it's gonna take me some time too, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it because I need it, right? Especially now having a dog, the extra dog hair, he like everywhere. Oh, like I have not had a cat. See, my cat died in 2021, and he was a tabby, so he was very hairy. But the dog hair is kind of driving me crazy. She said, I have this. Okay, so you have the same team. Okay, cool. So yeah, so you're establishing that trust and they know you, you know them. Perfect. So okay. I love that. Noted. I'll give you the updates, Paula. So the last thing I want to touch on, and I think I spoke about this a few times on Morning Inspiration with Friends, is we got to start putting connecting with content or people or TV that we're watching that is going to reflect the life that we want. And I'm big on that. I even again, because I embrace the design the lifestyle that's meant for you. I consume all of that content, even if it's not something that I personally, it just lifts me up. So I love to follow like the RV movement, the tiny house movement, even the people that live in their cars and their vehicles. I love that because it's like it's giving me that hope for wherever I'm trying to go next. So right before I was going to Colombia for the extended amount of time that I did earlier this year, I like November, December, I was very big on TikTok, just consuming the content of people that was moving overseas, right? That was moving to other countries or that have lived in multiple countries. And there's actually one content creator, I know her name is Imani. Imani recently did something that was phenomenal. Imani had put out a Google form for people, American people, to sign up, and she was trying to use her content creation funds to create. No, sorry, to pay for people to get their passport. Because if y'all don't know, more than 50% of US population does not own a passport for one reason or another. And so the people that can get the passport, if finances was a hardship, she was trying to alleviate that, because she's like, that's one of the hindrance. Most people do not travel outside of the country because they do not have a passport. So having conversations about living abroad is even more insane for them, because it's like, I don't even have a passport. Like, I can't even go to visit, let alone you talking about go live there for 6 months to a year. And so I say to people, like, the content that you're watching is going to influence you. And again, I'm about principle, right? So although I can consume all of this content, doesn't mean that I want to go live in my car. I do want to get a tiny house. Like, I want a tiny house in my backyard. I have like a little shed. I would love to clear that out and just put like a studio size tiny house, and just put it in the backyard. And that could be a place that my mom could stay, my niece could stay. You know, she's 17 now, so she might be she might want a little bit more independence. But I would love to have that. But when you're watching people actually do this, and they're doing it on their terms, they're not asking for permission from anyone else to do it. I love that. Like, and I think that's what we all need to do. Find the content that's going to fuel you, that's going to empower you, and that's going to reflect the life that you want. So you have the power of this little device, right? Of this iPad, of the computer, of the t-shirt, I mean, of the TV. You have power. So you can say, no, I don't want to see that. Every platform has a place where you can go and say not interested. Start using those things, right? That's being extremely intentional. Someone had posted on Threads. It's going to be the last thing I'm going to say. Someone had said something on Threads Monday, and he was like, yo, I'm tired of reading about everybody's horrible dating stories. Like, this is getting insane. Everybody's having a bad dating story. And so I said to the gentleman, I said, then create a space for them to share a positive experience, because that's what I did. I created a thread the week before, and I started with the negative, right? I started, look, people keep talking about they don't want to go out and pay money for dinner for a first date. So share your best first date experience that was not a restaurant. And I had over 500 people chime in talking about escape rooms. They went to the farm. They did a doggy park first date and had doggy ice cream and regular ice cream, museums. Some people said movies. I said one of my first favorite dates was bowling, and they was like, some people was like, oh yeah, I do remember going bowling. We did this and we did that. One person was like, we went to an amusement park. Everyone had so many differences, but I had to create that, right? I had to create a space for those people to come and tap into so that they can now share. So now there is a thread out there. It might not be a viral thread that has 500,000 views, but there's still a space where over 500 people came and said, you know what? This was one of my favorite first dates that was not a restaurant, and this is what we did. And we created that space. I wanted to see more positive relationships being shared or positive experiences. So I had to create it, because he's right. If you go on Threads, everyone is talking about the horrible dating experience. Let me tell you about my horrible date. But not many people are talking about their favorite date or the best date that they had or the best date that I had and it didn't work out. You can change your algorithm. You can change that, right? If a space doesn't exist, then be the space. Absolutely. And I know that when I first came here to Tulsa, there was a flyer, a sticker on a pole downtown, and I still remember that picture, because it said, "If you cannot find it, create it." And that is something I want so many people to understand. We have the power to create these things. You can create the space. I know someone who created a business because it was something that was in it was in demands. He didn't have the skills or the talent to do it, but he had the finances. He created a space. This is for a tattoo parlor. He said he created this space so that people can come and get their tattoos and they can listen to kind of the kind of music that they want to. And he found the tattoo artist. He created that space because it did not exist. And now people were coming in and they were enjoying it versus going somewhere where they felt uncomfortable, where they did not realize, like, oh, what, you know what, they don't cater to people like me. And so he created that space. And the great part, if you didn't hear what I said, he was not a tattoo artist. He had the funds, he had the resources, and he said, let me create it. I hear the problem, let me create it. Sometimes that's all that it really takes, right? And so Paula also said, I only shared positive community news on community radio at one time. It matters. It does matter, right? And I hate when I hear, oh, positive things don't go far. Positive things don't go far. That's not true, because if that was the case, people on go through your YouTube, type in some of these positive, phrases and listen to some of that content. Look at how many views. Some people have 200,000 views within a month, within a week. And this is all positive content. So positive content can make it, right? It's just that we're not choosing. So either we're not sharing it because we want to share the gossip stuff, we want to share the celebrity. Oh my gosh, did you see what happened with so and so? That's what people want to focus on. So if that's what you want to focus on, that's what you're going to focus on. But don't say that positive things are not being dispersed and not happening. Yes, I do believe that. I do believe there are people out there that love their jobs, right? But people don't talk about that. I know people that are in healthy, loving marriages, relationships, that have amazing friendships, people that are out here living abroad and they're living their best life. I know people that are living in their car, living their best life. And the reason why I know this is because I go in pursuit of that. I go searching for that, right? And that means that you have to be very intentional, because in order for you to see more positive things, you have to go look for it. Or you can create it and see if they come to you. And like I said, I was very fortunate on that thread for me to have all of those people to chime in. It was just like, wow. Even the messages about Jelly Bean and I, so many people have been tapping into that. And they're like, oh my gosh, I can see that. I love that for you too. They're realizing. I'm trying to find the post and see how many people hold on. Yeah, I can't, I think it's too far back. Yeah, this was probably before I've had Jelly Bean. But I know it was over. Okay, here we go. Yeah, we had over 531 responses, right? And all I said was, do men realize dates don't always have to be a dinner date? The reason why y'all feel women only want a free meal is because many don't think of creative things to do. My best first dates have been bowling, and another one was grabbing smoothies and walking through a street fair. What's a good first date you've had that was not a restaurant? Drop below. Something like, you could do something simple like that. So you can even identify the problem, right? Here's the talk of the town. But you saw how I spent it. So let me tell you how I learned that when I was teaching English. I When we taught them how to write business emails and letters, you have to deliver bad news sometimes. And so sometimes when you're delivering bad news, you have to give them a buffer, and then you have to deliver the bad news. And then I also would say, like, you got to kind of like, in this way, this is they do this a lot, like in marketing and PR, and I have a PR background. So you want to identify a problem, but then you want to spin it with a positive question. It's just on how you do it. And to get over 500 people to respond, here we go. Right? Here we go. So I'm here to just let you know, like, you have that power to do that. You can change your space. You can change your life. And that's exactly what I've done, right? And I go, when people watch me now on social media, from back from New York, or people that knew me when I was in New York, they see the shift because I had to change my space. Once I changed my environment, trust me, everything else just, it changed gradually and naturally. Because I'm just a totally different person. I'm not the same person that I was when I was in New York City. And I'm thankful for that, because the person that New York City created, when I was in that space and I was in that, it created a great person. And I took all of those skills and I took all of those lessons and I brought them here to Oklahoma, and I'm still thriving here. And that's one thing I do love. So I'm excited about that. So as always, y'all know I'm gonna give you something so that you can reflect on, because I want you to have these conversations with God, with yourself. And this is a great question. So I want you to ask yourself, is my current environment supporting the version of me I am becoming, or keeping me tied to who I used to be? This is your prompt for today. This is what I want you to go sit in a quiet space on your walk while you're drinking your coffee, even this evening. And I want you to look at all aspects, right? Your virtual space, so social media, your physical space at home, at work, your communities, your groups. I want you to ask this about your environment. Is it helping you to support the version of you that you are trying to become? And if you do not know what that means, if you do not know the version of the life that, or the version of you that you're trying to become, or the life that you're trying to create, I would recommend that you will connect with me over on my link tree, and let's have a conversation. Connect with me. You can DM me on Instagram. Let's have a conversation and see how we can get you to understanding what that is, because it's hard to have these kind of conversations about your environment and where you want to be if you don't know where you want to be, right? If you don't know what that life looks like. And I know it's going to take some time to get there, because I know for me, the first time that I really started to look at life, and as far as like leaving New York and just having a different lifestyle, working remote, having an easy morning, all of those different things, I started to have those thoughts back in 2015. It is 2025. And I didn't really start making those changes I didn't really start seeing those changes until about 2021. That's when I was like, I had enough. Enough is enough. And that's when I was like, we gotta get back to this, to what the amazing things that I want my life to look like. And that's what I did. 2021. And I've just been flowing ever since then, trying to figure it out. What do I really want my life? Trial and error. That's when I went to Myrtle Beach, and I stayed in Myrtle Beach for a month just to kind of get that feeling. Like, can I live on a beach? Is this something that I truly want? And I realized I can do it, probably not full time, because of hurricanes. Maybe I can do it in another country. Absolutely, right? Because every place has its own challenges as far as environmental. But I'm like water, and I don't know if yeah, I came to Oklahoma and now I deal with tornadoes. Yeah, we just got to deal with a whole bunch of weather. But yeah, so I just been like trying different things out and just seeing like, can I do this? Is this good for me? And just sometimes it's just a great reset. Those 4 weeks was a great reset, but those 4 weeks also confirmed. Let me tell you what those 4 weeks confirmed. That's when I realized I had to get out of New York. Want to know why? Because when I was coming back, I will never forget. My best friend met me in DC, and we drove back. She drove back with me. And when I was entering New York City, I started crying. Like I felt the energy, and it was not a good feeling. I felt like my chest was closing in on me. And that's a horrible feeling. And that's when I knew in 2022. And I remember I was when I dropped her off, I pulled over to the side in Harlem and I talked to God and I said, God, I got to get out of here, because to feel this way, just driving into the city, was insane. And that's when, I mean, it took me another year to figure out and to actually move, but I had to, that's when I knew we got to put something into motion. And that was November of 2022. And by November 2023, I was pulling up and I was full time in Tulsa. So sometimes, again, you can change your life. You have that much power, right? So don't let anyone tell you you don't have the power to do something. You absolutely do. Okay. I went over by a whole bunch of time. So I'm going to stop here. Thank you for being here this morning. Share this message with someone. Drop a comment below and let people know that, we're here every morning, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern time. And tomorrow's Thursday. So, we're going to be having an amazing Throwback Thursday message from a previous message that I have done. Because I've been doing this since 2015 when Facebook Live first pretty much started. So I have a lot of, great messages from the past that I will share. So yes, when you are looking and you're like, hey, she looks smaller. Someone texted me about that. And it was like, you lost a lot of weight. And I was like, no, that's a really old video from like, I think last week's video was from 2017. And it was like, oh, okay. And I was like, yeah. So um it happens, life happens. But yeah, so join back tomorrow. And if anything, I will see you live on Friday morning. Have a great one. Be well, be blessed. I love you. And as always, God loves you. But have a great day on purpose with purpose.